I am so happy to welcome you today to our We Are Family virtual conference session. And today's session is the crucial role of nutrition in PMS. And I'm Diane Linehan. I'm the Director of Operations for PMSF. And I'm also mom to Courtney, who's 32, who was diagnosed with PMS at 21 years of age. I don't know if you did you get your recipe? I have my green smoothie this morning I made for Courtney and I had to contact Chardell because Courtney doesn't have bananas, so we got a substitution. But I will tell you, it's delicious. And if you haven't made it this morning, you should try it. We have two presenters today, Chardell Buchanan and Kara Dubinsky. They are both registered dietitian nutritionists and PMS moms. So I don't know about you, but I've been really anticipating this session today. So I'm looking forward to it. So I'll introduce both Kara and Chardell just after a couple of housekeeping notes and a message from our sponsor.
Our mission at Jaguar is to accelerate breakthroughs in gene therapy for patients with severe genetic diseases.
With gene therapy, we can give the opportunity at a better life. That's what makes Jaguar special.
Let me introduce and welcome both Chardell and Kara. So Chardell is a registered dietitian nutritionist, and she's currently living in New York. She started her career in 2004, working in NYC, running a food pantry for families impacted by HIV/AIDS, offering nutritional counseling and nutrient-dense foods. When her second child, Ben, was diagnosed with Phelan-McDermid syndrome, she quit working to care for him full-time. Keeping up with the demands of his care, she pushed her own health aside. She realized she couldn't continue to give Ben the care that he needed long-term if she wasn't healthy and strong herself. She turned it all around and started to feed herself and her family better, to nourish their bodies with nutrient-dense foods. As a result, she felt better, had more energy, and was able to advocate for Ben and his needs. As a registered dietitian nutritionist, she has been featured on the Rare Mamas Rising, Because We Are Strong podcasts, and had an interview on the Hatching for Health television show talking about nutrition for rare mamas and their children. She now provides other moms of disabled children or with a rare disease one-on-one nutritional support, group programs, digital courses for simple healthy meal planning so they can increase their energy, improve their health, and have the confidence to advocate for their children. Welcome, Chardell. And Chardell and Kara are going to co-present, so I'm going to tell you about Kara next. She's a registered and New York State certified dietitian nutritionist. She holds a Master's of Science in Nutrition and Dietetics from New York University and completed her clinical training at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center and at Mount Sinai Medical Center. She was a senior nutritionist at St. Luke's Roosevelt Center in Manhattan and previously worked for Novartis Pharmaceuticals in both nutrition and sales divisions. Currently, Kara is part of a private nutrition practice in New York City, where she provides nutritional guidance and specializes in creating individualized plans for her patients. She's creative in developing simple, healthy, and exciting meal ideas and recipes. Kara utilizes her extensive knowledge in medical nutrition therapy to help her clients make lasting lifestyle changes, and her areas of expertise include weight management, cardiovascular disease, diabetes management, and digestive disorders. She also has a special interest in pediatrics and special needs. Her daughter, Eliza, has Phelan-McDermid syndrome, which has accelerated her interest in the crucial role of nutrition and PMS. So I cannot be happier. I've really anticipated this session, and as a fellow PMS mom, it's wonderful to see you be able to use your credentials and your expertise to be able to help this population. And I know you're both excited about that. So welcome.
Thank you, Diane. We are so excited to be here. Hearing that introduction, I'm filled with gratitude. I know Kara is too. We're both so excited to be here and humbled for this opportunity to present to you the things that we know can really help your children. We have both been working, obviously, with our own kids, but we're PMS moms, so we understand what you're going through and we know how hard it is. This presentation that we're going to do today is more practical and helpful. It will give you some really great things that you can start implementing in your life right now. And we know that it's going to be pretty fast. We're going to go through it, but let's get started. So this is an introduction to nutrition and its crucial role in PMS. And Diane kind of already introduced us, but I am Chardell Buchanan. If you haven't met me before, I'm sorry. We should be friends. We should be best friends. You should have met me by now. But I'm a nutrition coach for rare disease families, and I help them with eating. And I'm also Benjamin's mom. That's what I do during the day is nutrition coaching. And but full time, I'm his mom. So that's me.
Hi, I'm Kara Dubinsky. And again, Diane and Chardell did a great introduction here, but we really encourage anybody who's listening today or who listens in the future to, get in touch with us or email us or chat with us to see if we can really help you. As a professional in this nutrition career, I still find new things and I'm still challenged on how to help Eliza or other children who have disabilities and challenges to eat. So we're not alone and we're in this together, and working with Chardell on this has been really a great opportunity. And I really look forward to working with all of you and her to see how we can really help our children and other children that have, disabilities and other genetic disorders. So what are we going to cover today? We are going to do some basic stuff, but we really want this to be helpful for you. So we're going to talk about foods that are healthy and easy to digest, immunity boosters and healthy food combinations, constipation and fiber needs, which is definitely one of my favorite topics, sensory needs, weight, and overall healthy choices for you and your family. I have 2 other children, and I think it's really important that they're engaged and they eat healthy and we all work together. And I know Chardell also has 2 other children. So we're really trying to help our whole families and incorporate our children that do struggle with this, but also to feed our whole entire family healthy foods.
Yeah, so we're going to give you a quick breakdown of how it's going to go today, so that you know what to expect, because I hate showing up somewhere and then questioning, okay, when is this going to end? How much longer is it going to be? So here we're going to talk about what we're going to cover so that you know what to expect. We're going to go pretty quickly. Thankfully, you answered the survey, so we know the things that are concerns for you. We know the things that you wanted to hear about from us as dietitians. So everything that we got from those surveys, we tried to cover this in a real general sort of sense, because there were some things that we can't cover or that would only affect a couple of kids, and we can work with you one-on-one. But for general advice and suggestions, we're going to cover it pretty quickly because there was a lot that you wanted to hear about. But don't worry, we're going to make it super simple. Super simple. This is not going to be one of those scientific sessions that you attend when you leave going, didn't understand half of that. You're going to get it, you're going to understand it, and you're going to walk away knowing what to do. So leave it to us. We've made it super simple for you. A couple of things you should know about us. I get a little fired up. Yes, I do. I can't help it. I make it a little loud and in your face, but that's just how I am. And Kara may go off on a tangent or 2, but don't worry, they always relate. They are good tangents. You are going to learn something today that is going to help your child. Even if you only walk away with one thing, it will be something that is going to help your child. So we're so excited that you're here. Our goal through this presentation is to help you feed your child and your family well. That is what we want for you. Okay, so now that you know what you can expect from us today, we're going to dive right in with foods that are healthy for your PMS child. Okay, in specific, there are a couple of caveats to this. And the first one is, you probably already heard this in a couple of other sessions, but there are no studies to date that have any concrete, if you're a PMS person, this is your nutrition related kind of things. There's no studies that have been done between a direct correlation and PMS and nutrition. We're working on that. We need to get one done, right? Or maybe several. But just because there haven't been any studies done doesn't mean that we don't know anything. There are foods and nutrients that have been studied in populations that are similar to the Phelan-McDermid syndrome population. And so we can extrapolate that information and relate it to our kids. And based on what we know about the Phelan-McDermid syndrome and its presenting symptoms and what happens in the body, we can then use foods to help nourish the bodies, to help your child thrive. Okay, so any suggestions that we make today are suggestions that are based in science, even though there are no studies done to conclusively follow it up at this time. But we want to make sure that you realize that we are dietitians and we're professionals, but we are not your dietitian. So everything that we say today is just a suggestion. We, of course, would never want you to replace anything that your medical team or your doctor has suggested for your child without thoroughly going through it and making sure that it's a good fit for your child. We cannot replace any medical advice that you've been given. However, we feel very strongly that the things we're going to suggest today are good suggestions. It's solid advice and it's stuff that is going to help your child. So we wouldn't be presenting it if we felt otherwise. The very first thing, these foods up here that you can see listed are foods that are easy to digest and easy to absorb. If you look at this list, you can probably identify maybe one, maybe two things that are not in your child's diet already regularly. And I would encourage you to think about what's a way that you could add it in. Is there a way that you could get your child to eat maybe a little bit more yogurt? Yogurt is very beneficial. Kara will go over this more in detail when she talks in a moment, but with helping your gut to work better, it gives good bacteria and can help the gut do its job and communicate with the brain better, and it will help your child feel better. So is there a way that you could add that in to your child's diet if they're not already getting it? If you got the smoothie recipe, smoothies are a great way to add a lot of these things in. You can just throw them in with the smoothie. It's easy for your child to eat, also easy to digest and absorb. So as you look at this list, I would just encourage you, if there's something on there you think, oh, my child's not getting enough of that, find a way to add it in. If you need help, you can always reach out to Kara or I, and we're happy to help you with that. But just as an idea, those are some foods that are really easy to digest and absorb.
So what foods are good for immunity? I think this is a very common question, and especially coming out of COVID, like what could we eat? What could we eat that gives us good vitamins and minerals? So think color. Examples are, as you see here, red peppers, carrots, oranges, and sweet potatoes. And just like Chardell mentioned, some of these are really hard for our kids to eat. But again, back to that smoothie. If your child won't eat an avocado, but you put it in a shake, or your child won't eat sweet potatoes, but you mix it in with things that they do like. For example, maybe they love chicken and you could put a few pieces of sweet potato in. These are the things that are really going to help with their immunity. And other things too, which are also, hard sometimes for our kids: garlic, turmeric, citrus, things like that. However, I do find different types of foods, and again, please email us for recommendations, that actually contain little amounts of garlic, little amounts of turmeric, that you actually can add to smoothies or baked goods, things like that, that small amounts can really help increase immunity. Fiber, my favorite topic. So as you know, many children on the spectrum, or children with PMS, especially children with PMS, have issues with motility. This is a physical issue that we know children with PMS suffer for. So fiber is the big word. What can we do food-wise that can really help with constipation, really help have your child go to the bathroom regularly? I know my daughter suffers tremendously from constipation, and it is a struggle because sometimes it's hard to know whether or not my Eliza's going to the bathroom regularly or not. And fiber really is the key food to help with constipation. And we're going to talk about other things as well, water, and other ways to do that, to really help. But I believe our kids, especially kids that have PMS, don't get enough fiber. So what are the foods that contain fiber, and what is fiber? So fiber really is the indigestible part of a plant, and it's really helpful for GI issues. Dietary fiber adds bulk to your diet and helps you really feel full. It helps with digestion and helps prevent constipation. And some good sources are the whole grains, the nuts, the seeds, the fruits, and vegetables. And it's important that we include these at every meal if possible. And I know how challenging it is, but think about little things. For example, if your child loves a sandwich, then having a whole grain bread instead of having a white bread or a bread that doesn't have any fiber can make a big difference in regards to getting some fiber in your diet. And also foods that are like strawberries or blueberries that are easy to chew, easy to digest, that have really good sources of fiber. This is the most, I'd say, lengthy slide and probably the most complicated, but I wanted to give you ideas of different food combinations that increase absorption. I think there is a lot of patients and our children and parents that are concerned that our kids are not absorbing vitamins and minerals. And there is some information and data that children that have PMS don't absorb zinc. Again, as Chardell mentioned, there aren't really clear-cut studies, but there is some indication. So I wanted to just go over a few different combinations that can really help your children. So to start off, vitamin A, D, E, and K are called fat-soluble vitamins. These vitamins work best when you pair them with a fat in your diet. So for example, if you're having milk or yogurt or some type of dairy that has vitamin A and D, and you pair that with a peanut butter sandwich and jelly, that nut butter, almond butter, sunflower butter will help absorb those vitamins. So that's the best way to kind of know whether or not our kids are absorbing this, to give them the best food combinations to maximize that absorption. Iron as well can decrease zinc absorption, but only when you're taking a supplemental form. So if you have anemia or your levels are low and your doctor recommends this for your child, you want to be careful. You want to make sure that the zinc levels are okay. And you can do blood tests to find that out. But most importantly, remember that that is only when you're taking an oral supplementation. Zinc also is better absorbed when protein is included in a meal. So similar to like the A, D, and K, we want to have good food combinations. So zinc is also present in animal foods like red meat, salmon, chicken. So it's important if you're, taking zinc supplements that you eat it with protein. So for example, if you're taking a zinc supplement, it'd be great to eat it in combination with your salmon, with your chicken, with your lean hamburger or your turkey burger, things like that. And lastly, vitamin C. Vitamin C and plant-based iron that comes from beans and non-animal type protein sources. It really helps when you mix the vitamin C and the iron together. So for example, if you're having spinach and you add a little lemon to it, that can really help the absorption. So constipation. Again, back to fiber and constipation, we know that this is a real common problem. So we want to give you realistic foods and give you a lot of different ideas of different things to include. So berries, apples, and pears with the skin are really good sources of foods. Now, just back to Chardell's shake. Even if your child can't eat an apple or chew an apple, which is challenging, especially for my daughter, if you add that skin when you're chopping up that apple and you put it into that shake, they're going to get that fiber. That's what we really want you to have, not necessarily just taking the skin off because it's hard to chew, but throwing that skin in and mushing it all together. That will really help get the fiber. Same thing with pears, things that have skin. Berries, adding that to a shake or just crushing that up or putting it in yogurt could really give you some really good fiber. Also whole grains, barley, and pasta. So I really do encourage for our children, if you're making them pasta, if you're giving them a sandwich, look for breads and pastas that have fiber. Look for things that have at least 2 to 3 grams of fiber per serving. I promise that some of these breads, even though we think that our children will only eat white breads or white pastas, you'd be surprised that if you cook it correctly and you put their favorite toppings on, they're going to eat it and they're going to get more fiber. Also things that, may not be as appealing to our kids, lentils, chickpeas, split peas. And we're happy to share recipes for these because these are challenging and these may not be foods that our kids are used to or that you're used to, but they're really healthy and they can really give you good nutrients. Also chia and flax seeds. There's a lot of pop around these as well, but we can really tell you that making like little chia puddings or adding flax seeds to oatmeal or yogurt, things like that really help with digestion, and they're super healthy and they have lots of benefits, fiber as well as other nutrients. My biggest thing for Eliza is prune juice. So I have found that any juice I use, any kind of supplement for constipation, the one that I've had the most success in with her is prune juice. Now, this may not be for everybody. This may not be for every child. I'm just sharing my experience that I feel that prune juice, because of the way that it has an effect on your GI system and this osmotic kind of way that it controls your bowels, really helps with constipation. So if your child is struggling and they can tolerate prune juice, I highly recommend having this as their regular diet. And the sugar content compared to mango and pear is better. It does not increase your sugars as much as those other juices like orange juice or apple juice. And then spinach, broccoli, artichokes. Those are great foods. We can add them again to, spinach, adding to shakes, or even broccoli. We can come up with ideas for you too. Adding broccoli to meatballs, adding broccoli as a side dish, adding broccoli to pasta if your child just won't eat regular broccoli. But these are just really good foods that help. So foods that contribute. Back to what I was saying about white breads and white grains, those are really binding. So when you're experiencing GI issues like going to the bathroom too much, these would be foods like white breads and grains and pasta that really bulk you up, but they don't have a lot of fiber. So when in a normal kind of day and diet, I would recommend not having these as part of kind of the repertoire. And then again, French fries, donuts, baked goods, unripe bananas, because bananas do have a lot of fiber, but some bananas are constipating, especially if they're kind of green. And then processed foods and fast foods. And water. So we need water. We need water in general for good hydration, but most importantly, when we're eating these high fiber foods, and I'm sure as parents, you experience this as well. If you're eating a whole bowl of broccoli and you don't have water to kind of digest that and help that move through your colon, you're just going to feel really bloated and super gassy. And we really want to make sure that the foods that we recommend, that you're making sure that you're drinking water. And this could be in between meals. This can be part of a shake, but you must help your child make sure that if they're eating these high fiber foods, that they have sufficient water so that it helps move through the system.
Okay, and up next, we're going to talk about sensory needs. A lot of our kids have sensory needs with their eating that can impact how they're eating and the nutrition that they're getting, right? The main thing that they deal with is this hypotonia. We all know this is pervasive low muscle tone, and it doesn't just apply to the skeletal body, but it also applies to the entire GI tract. That includes your mouth, the tongue, the throat, down into your intestines. All of that is impacted by this low muscle tone. So in the mouth, that can create some problems with chewing and swallowing, right? That then in turn can inhibit digestion. If our food isn't properly chewed, then it can decrease the ability of the rest of the GI tract to absorb the nutrients that it needs to absorb. So we want to make sure that we are addressing this. If your child does have any kind of chewing or swallowing issues, that we're helping them to get the most out of the food that they are eating. So something that was very helpful for Benjamin when he was little, oh boy, he was not a good eater at all. And it stressed me out. In fact, I even felt like a little bit inadequate as a mom because I'm a dietitian and my kid won't eat. And so, I really did struggle with it a lot, sort of as an identity thing. And then I realized I couldn't do it alone. I needed a team. And so if you're at that spot with your child where your child is not eating well or having trouble eating, Ben choked a lot. He choked on so many foods. We had trouble with him swallowing water because it wasn't thick enough. He would choke on that. So anyway, we built a team, and this is something I would suggest for you if you're going through the same kind of thing. These are the team members you want to have if your child is having trouble chewing or swallowing because of that low motility. It's really important to have several people on your team. The first one I would recommend is an OT. So an OT, occupational therapist, is somebody who can help from anything that has to do with your child, even learning how to use the fork to get the food from the plate to their mouth, any kind of thing like that, or picking up the food with their fingers and getting it to their mouth. The OT can work on helping them with that, and then also building some muscles for chewing, okay? But the speech therapist is the one who's going to do anything once the food's inside the child's mouth. So that would be help with swallowing and chewing. You can even go one step further and do a swallowing test. Some of you may have done that before. But this is really the job of the speech therapist to prevent that choking and pulling that can happen. So when Benjamin was very little, like I said, he choked a lot. And so we actually did a feeding class with 2 speech therapists, and we did 2 rounds of it. Sometimes with our kids, you have to repeat, right? You have to really help them figure it out. So we did 2 rounds of a eating class with speech therapists. And obviously I'm a dietitian, so I was there too. But through those classes, they helped him learn how to chew and swallow in an appropriate way. So if you don't already have an interdisciplinary team for your child, and your child has issues with chewing and swallowing, I would highly recommend getting them a team, setting one up for them, because that's really going to help them to be successful. Now, if your child does chew and swallow okay, I'm going to guess that their main thing is they like to chew. Our kids love to chew, right? That's why they're wearing those necklaces around their necks, is because that need to chew is so satisfying for them. That sensory input they get when they chew down on something is just wonderful to them, and so soothing and calming, and such a great feedback for their bodies and their systems that they really seek it out. I know Benjamin does. So if your child is someone like that, who is seeking that sensory oral input with the crunching, these are some great crunchy foods that you can offer your child. They're healthy, they're nutritious, and they give that really good crunch. Now, of course, if you're worried about choking, some of these you may want to watch, but listen, you're the parent, you're the expert in what your child can do. We trust you with that. So if your child does not chew and swallow well, then I'm not going to, recommend that you give them just a big piece of bell pepper. But if your child is fine with that, then it's okay. So Benjamin really likes to help me in the kitchen. Your child might do the same thing. When I'm cooking dinner, it's almost impossible because he is right there with me trying to help. So what I like to do is I put a couple of these things out on the counter where he comes into the kitchen. So I'll put out a couple of pretzels and I'll cut up a bell pepper. He loves bell peppers. They're so crunchy and satisfying. And I'll just put them out on the counter. Then he can walk by and grab one. And I know it's not going to make a huge mess wherever he's going around the house. And it kind of keeps him out of the kitchen so that I can prepare dinner. And it gives him that really good input. Plus, I know it's not so much that it's going to make it so he won't eat dinner. So anyway, these are some things I want to point out specifically. The veggie sticks we're talking about. Well, there's 2 different kinds, right? You can do fresh veggie sticks, just cut up like a bell pepper, but you could also get the ones that they're like a puffy kind of thing. That and the cheese doodles are things, if your child has trouble swallowing or chewing and you're worried about choking, both of those dissolve quite easily once they get in the saliva in the mouth. And so those would be a good place to start if your child really craves that crunch, but you don't want them to choke on something that they can't fully chew. Okay. So again, if there's anything on this list that you think my child really likes to chew and I haven't tried that before, go ahead and give it a try just to see how it goes. And you can always supervise in the beginning if you're unsure about a choking hazard. But generally speaking, these are foods that are really great for our children to get that sensory input.
Okay, wait. Definitely a big topic. I know, again, as Chardell mentioned, and as I said before, many children with PMS have a hard time gaining weight and feeling kind of satiated, full. And there are no studies, and we need to get those studies, but we don't have any clinical studies that really have a reason for that. But there is lots of reports that children are losing weight and we don't know why they're losing weight, and that they're constantly hungry and it's really hard for them to be full. And similar to Eliza, sometimes she could eat, 3 granola bars in a row, which I know is very filling, but she doesn't have that ability to kind of slow down and feel satiated. So we're going to talk about how we can try with foods to what I would call, get the most out of each meal. So there are basically 3 categories of foods and how we digest. Carbohydrates, which everyone I know hears a lot about, protein, and fats. So this is a good description of kind of where the foods lie. So the way that we digest these foods, carbs we eat and we digest them really fast. Protein we digest and a little bit slower, and fats we take a little bit more time to digest. And just think about yourself when you eat. So when you eat, for example, a banana or a half a banana, you eat it, you feel really full, you have some good energy, but then if you're not eating it with something else, a few minutes later, or even like a half hour later, you kind of feel hungry again. That makes total sense. The way that we digest a banana is real fast. And that's why people that are running or exercising eat carbs a half hour before they exercise, because that's going to give them the maximum energy and it's going to give them the energy they need real fast. But for children that have PMS, they eat that and they're still super hungry. So we want to try to give you food ideas that combine carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So as I described, based on that picture, there are 3 different groups of foods. So the best way we can do this is combine them. So for example, if your child is having a sandwich, the bread, the whole grain bread, is going to give you carbohydrates. It's also going to give you fiber, which all fall into the carbohydrate area. But then once you put on some turkey or some chicken, then you're going to get protein. And then maybe you add a little avocado, then you're going to get fat. So basically what you're doing at, as much as you can at each meal is combining those 3 different food groups. So the more healthy fats we can kind of give our children, like avocado, olive oil, obviously nut butters if they don't have allergies, olives, things like that, that will give them good fat, healthy fat, but really fill them up more and make them feel full. So I do a lot of adding peanut butter and almond butter, or even if there's, allergies, sunflower butter, things like that, sun butter really can add bulk and give you a good amount of fat, so that when your child is digesting, that fat really helps slow them down, make them feel full, not feel like they're eating so fast all the time. Same thing with even carrots and hummus, or even red pepper that Chardell said Ben likes. So he loves red pepper. Having red pepper, combining that with hummus, which has a little protein and even a little fat in that, because sometimes you could add a little olive oil in there, really would help with this kind of hunger and eating so fast, kind of slow the digestion. So again, this is just a quick kind of guide, but we can really help you too if you need other recipes or ideas of how to really combine carbohydrates, fats, and proteins at every meal. So these are examples. So as I mentioned, whole wheat bread with nut butter and strawberries. So that's going to give you carbohydrates. The nut butter is going to give you some protein and some fat, and the strawberries are going to give you also carbohydrates and fiber. Same thing with the hummus and the carrots. I love yogurt, and I know some of our children do have, sometimes dairy can contribute to constipation, sometimes dairy can cause bloating, but I would recommend like a Activia probiotic yogurt. First of all, it's very easy to digest and eat. And I like to have yogurt and add stuff to the yogurt. So I personally prefer to get plain yogurt and then add my own stuff. For example, adding fresh berries, fresh strawberries. Here's a good place to add chia or flaxseed. This is a place where you could really mix that into the yogurt and give it to your child, or have them work on the spoon. And then they'll be able to get a lot of those good nutrients without feeling like they're eating something that's kind of odd to them or different. Also, love avocados with eggs and some sprinkled cheese. Here again, you're getting the avocado, which is the fat. You're getting the egg, which also has a little fat, but a little protein, and the sprinkled cheese on the toast. You're getting a real good combination here. So if this is eaten slowly and over time, this should really kind of help your child feel full, feel satiated, and gain weight if they're continuing to lose weight. Same thing with cottage cheese, similar to the yogurt, with fruit and a little cinnamon. Another thing I love are having like some nitrate-free turkey roll-ups with cheese, cucumbers, and spinach. This is a good way to kind of get good nutrients in, get that spinach in, that vitamin K, get that cheese, that protein in, and have something that they can eat and that's easy for them to eat. I love egg muffins, recommend them all the time. You can get yourself like a silicone pan and like a muffin pan and make egg muffins, and you add some veggie and cheese. These last a really long time. I do this a lot for breakfast. And this is a really good way to start the day off because you're getting your protein, you're getting your veggies, you're getting your fiber. And it's a lot better than just eating a granola bar that just has carbohydrates. So hopefully when you're having the protein and the fat and the carbohydrates, your child will kind of feel less hungry throughout the day, and their blood sugars will be in more of a kind of steady state than just eating something that has, sugar really high. They feel really full, but then it kind of comes down and up. Same thing with the protein shake, adding spinach, adding almond milk if you don't want to use dairy. That almond milk is going to give you protein. That almond milk is going to give you fat, healthy fat. And I'm a big nut butter person. I think nut butter really does help satiate you, and the creaminess of it, is really a good mouth feel for children and adults.
Okay, we're going to transition now into healthy choices for the whole family. And if you attended the presentation I did back in January, some of this may be a little bit of a repeat, but if you didn't, that's okay. The main thing to remember is that healthy eating really can be easy. I want you to remember that both for you and for what you're feeding your child. We are not here to make it complicated. Our job is to make it easy. So that's what I want you to remember. This can be easy. This really can be easy. Especially if you're building a meal like Kara just described that has all the good stuff in it. The protein, the fiber from the carbohydrates and fats. That kind of a meal is really going to be very healthy for your child to eat. And it's going to be easy for you to make if you just remember those simple combinations, okay? So 5 healthy choices we want you to remember when you're making a meal. These are the things that we want to see on your plate, on your child's plate when you're making a meal. Whole grains, fruits and vegetables, lean protein, healthy fats, and water. Those are the things that we need to make sure that are getting into your child's diet. That's really going to be the best nutrition and way to feed them. So remember those 5 categories, okay? We're going to talk about each of them a little bit more in depth. Whole grains, we're going to harp on this just a little bit more because this is so good to help your child with constipation, to help have a regular bowel movement, plus get lots of vitamins and minerals. So there have been studies done that show that the more fiber a person has, when it gets to the colon, so that's a ways away from your mouth, right? That takes a while for the fiber to get from your mouth clear down to your colon. But when it gets there, it sends a signal to your brain. Your gut sends a signal to your brain that says, wow, we have a lot to eat. We're pretty full. We can hold off. So this is a great tool for helping your child to stop that constant hunger. So many of you in the survey had said, my child eats constantly. This is a great way to help stop that, is to increase the amount of fiber in your child's diet. It will help not only with constipation, but with that feeling of fullness. So the reason that it is so good is that complex carbohydrates in the form of whole grains, just like Kara said, they can get into your blood quickly for energy, but a whole grain takes just a little bit longer for the enzyme to go in and cut up those fiber molecules, those long stretches, and make them smaller so that they're digestible. Okay, so it increases the amount of time it takes for the food to get through your digestive tract, which slows down that feeling of, oh my goodness, I need to eat again, I'm hungry. So any whole grain has 3 layers. It's got the bran, that's the outside layer, the endosperm, that's in the middle, and then the germ is the very smallest part of it, and that's where a new plant would grow from. When you see something sprouts, it sprouts from the germ part of it. But included in all of those, we find trace minerals that are very healthy for our children. protein, carbohydrates, and some healthy fats. So we definitely want to be adding these into your child's diet. Some examples, I know Kara's already given some, but I'm going to throw even more at you. We've got whole wheat bread, pasta, and crackers. Those are easy to add in, easy to purchase and find at the grocery store. Brown or wild rice is a whole grain. And then you can find whole grain cornmeal if you're looking at cornbread. Just make sure that you're getting the whole grain kind. Oatmeal is a whole grain, very easy to digest, good for your child's, if they can't chew and swallow easily, this is a good one for them. And then popcorn. Ben loves popcorn. I'm sure your kids do too. It's so much fun to eat, and it is a whole grain. So this recommendation down here at the bottom, if your child currently does not have a lot of fiber in their diet, or you think they may be hesitant to fully embrace whole grains, my recommendation is you start with at least half. It's very easy to accomplish this. Let's say you're making pasta for dinner, then you would buy whole wheat pasta and white pasta. You can even cook them in the same water. Typically, one will take longer than the other, depending on the type of noodle you have. But if you're doing something like a penne, the whole wheat pasta takes about 2 minutes less. So you would put your white pasta in the boiling water, set a timer for 2 minutes, put in the whole wheat pasta, set the timer for the remainder of the time. It comes out all finished at the same time. It's already mixed together. You just put it on your child's plate. So that is a great way to start. And you can do that with pasta. You can do that with rice. You can even do that with crackers or bread. Just do half and half to begin with. And then once you get more used to it, it will be easier to increase that portion. But definitely start with at least half whole grains. That's your assignment for whole grains. And then fruits and vegetables. Now, we've touted this for a couple of slides now, right? Fruits and vegetables are so good for your child. So good for your child. Okay, they are obviously a source of carbohydrates, but they're good because it's like this little package. And fruits and vegetables come with fiber, fruits, vitamins and minerals, and then they have a good amount of water in them too. So it's kind of like this little mighty package that you can give your child. So just like Kara said, don't remove the skins, keep them on there. If it's difficult to chew, you can find ways to add them in that makes it a little easier. We can help you with that. But make sure that you're giving your child lots and lots of choices. So you've probably heard eat the rainbow, right? That's because fruits and vegetables have vitamins and minerals in them, but not all fruits and vegetables have the same vitamins and minerals in the same amounts. So it's really important to get a good variety in the fruits and vegetables that you're eating. We want to see lots of colors. The deep, dark colors are really rich in nutrition. So try and offer those on a regular basis. Fresh is great. Fresh is really good. If you can offer that to your child and they will eat it, that's perfect. Start there. In season is good. And if you can get it locally, that's even better, right? It's great for the planet, great for you. But don't discount frozen. Frozen is also a very good choice because when fruits and vegetables are frozen, they are frozen at their peak of ripeness. So all of those nutrients are locked in. When you eat them later, you get all that good nutrition. So it's a great choice. And then canned is also a good choice. If you have canned fruits and vegetables, that is fine as well. Just make sure that if you're choosing to eat canned fruit, that you're choosing one that is canned in 100% juice as opposed to the ones with the heavy syrups. Our kids will do better. You'll do better if you just choose those ones in the 100% juice. Now, here's your goal for fruits and vegetables. Again, I feel like we're saying the same things over and over, but we want you to have this at every meal. Every meal and snack, try to have a fruit or a vegetable or even both, okay? The more we can eat of these, the better nutrition, the better chance of your child absorbing those nutrients. You're going to have a better chance of that the more you offer them. So please, every meal and snack, we want to be adding in fruits and vegetables.
So protein. We definitely talked a lot about fruits and vegetables, and I definitely agree with Jardel. I always say try everything, and it's okay to have vegetables or fruits for breakfast too. We're definitely not used to that kind of as like the American breakfast, but culturally and other places across the world, fruits and vegetables are part of good healthy breakfast. So I always say, if my children want to have broccoli for breakfast, fine. It doesn't matter when it is throughout the day, but I agree with her at every meal. So think about, if they don't want to have fruits for breakfast, then vegetables are okay too. But let's talk about protein. So what is protein? And we also need protein. So protein helps repair and maintain all our body tissues. So how do we get protein? Well, proteins in eggs and beans and nuts and seeds and lentils, those are examples of really good sources. Also, foods, for example, like lean cuts of chicken and lean cuts of meat. And I say lean, when I mean that, I want to make sure that when we give recommendations, we're giving healthy recommendations. So foods, we want to look for lean cuts of chicken and lean cuts of meat because we want to really reduce saturated fat, which is the really bad fat. And we want to encourage monounsaturated fat, which is the good fat, which the fat that comes from lean sources, and also avocados, olive oil, things like that, nut butters. Those are the really good, healthy, lean proteins and fats. So just again, and part of what you're going to do is add lean protein at every meal. And we talked about that. So even having a little eggs in the morning, that's your protein. Having a really, a turkey sandwich or some grilled chicken or salmon for lunch, there's your protein. Same thing with dinner. And if you want to do more plant-based proteins, nuts, beans, those are going to give you really good vitamins too, and really good sources of protein. And fats, which I've pretty much repeated myself many times, but I feel that fats are super important for our children for a lot of reasons. Number one, to help feel full. Number two, to help gain weight. And number three, because they have this good texture. And that's for avocados and olive oil and nut butter. I feel that are really ideal textures for children that do have low muscle tone, because these are things that hopefully our children won't choke on, or hopefully won't, things get stuck. I do caution, obviously, that sometimes with peanut butter, if too much is given, it does get kind of stuck on the palate. So be careful that whatever your child is swallowing, slowly. And I think my daughter too eats very fast. So I need to kind of pace her. And especially when I do give her nut butters or things that are sticky, I want to make sure that everything else kind of goes down. And again, I recognize that there are nut allergies. So if you can't have nut butters, think about using more avocado or olive oil, or how you can add different things, even to, baked goods, to make sure that you're getting good density there. And water. I think I had the other water slide too, but water is really important. I think that sometimes our children who are not verbal, some children don't really are able to express if they're thirsty or they need water. So it is our job, or the caretaker's job, to kind of remember that water is super important. I know my other kids are always really thirsty, and I kind of understand when they need water to digest and to kind of move things along, because they're telling me. But Eliza sometimes can't tell me. I mean, she does. I kind of understand when she needs it, but I think it's important, as part of her care, or whoever's with her, to make sure that they're reminded, please, drink water in between meals, drink water when you're eating, in between meals, part of your meals, after dinner, before dinner, because we really need this to help with the digestion and help move things along. So a quick recap. So we really tried to give you ideas that can be easy. It is hard to cook for your whole family, things that are healthy, that are easy to clean up, when you're, taking care of yourself and your child with special needs, and you're working a full-time job, all of that. So we hope that we're giving you some easy ideas that you can just kind of pick up at the supermarket or add to your delivery, so that it's easy for you. We really want it to be fun, easy, and not stressful. Again, as Chardell mentioned, those grains. If your child is not used to eating fiber foods or that, I love the idea of mixing half what they're used to and then trying to incorporate a whole grain. So at least half of their grains, make them whole grains. Fruits and vegetables, if it's colorful, if it has purple, or it has yellow, it has orange, it's probably really good for you. So try everything. Nothing, even sometimes kiwis. This is a fruit that I have tried that's so unique, that has a very kind of soury taste with little seeds that I never thought any of my kids would love, and they love it. So try anything that you haven't tried before, to get that fiber, to get those nutrients, to get those vitamin C, all of those antioxidants to help them. Lean protein, as I mentioned before. Yes, we want to have good sources of protein, salmon, chicken, as needed, or once in a while, red meat. That's good for iron. That's healthy. But look for ones that have reduced fat. And when you're cooking it, even if you're having a hamburger or a steak, make sure there's not a ton of that white kind of fat around it. You want to limit that. That's the bad saturated fat. So choose the healthy fats, and I'm not even going to repeat those because I said them many times, and water.
Okay, I want to tell you a little bit about Ben's story, just so you can see that the change that came over Ben because of the nutritional changes that we made to his diet. So I have then and now. Then, this picture in your mind, Ben is a child who is just kind of getting his legs, learning how to walk. He was a late walker. I'm sure some of you had the same experience. But once he learned how to walk and he felt pretty steady, he didn't ever want to stop. He wanted to be going all the time. And he wasn't even on the chart. The little growth chart with the cute little slide like that? Ben was not even on that. He was below that for the majority of his early years. He was so little as far as weight and height. He was just very small. And like I said, once he started walking, he was a to-go kid. Our house had a kind of like a circular pathway, and the stairs from upstairs came down. And I would sit on the bottom step with Go-Gurt and a string cheese and crackers. And as he walked by, I'd try to hand him something. I'd try to get something in him because he was so constantly on the move, burning off everything that he ate. And he was very on the go. He would only eat if he was moving. And he had a very limited number of foods that he would tolerate, that he would accept. He was very high on the picky eating side of things. And then he did have GI issues that, his food just wasn't moving through the way it should. And so over time, like I said, we built that team for Benjamin with an OT and a speech therapist, and we went to feeding class, and I really started diving in deep to what kind of things can I add to his diet that are going to help him now that he can eat better. He sits at the table to eat. We sit at the table as a family to eat dinner, and he sits with us. This is like my dream come true, that we can all sit at the table for dinner and eat, and Ben's with us. That was huge, a huge, huge thing for us. He has a regular bowel movement. I mean, woo, right? I know he probably doesn't want me telling you all that, but he has a regular bowel movement every day. I know when it's coming. It's a nice, good bowel movement that is soft, easy to pass, and he feels good when he can eliminate that from his body. So that is one of the biggest benefits. And I totally tally that up to increasing the fiber in his diet along with the water. He's in a very happy mood. When you feel good inside your body, when your gut feels good, it helps you feel better. And I'm sure you can relate that to a time in your own life when your tummy hasn't felt well and you don't feel good and your behaviors are kind of off and you're kind of grumpy and snippy. When your body feels good, you feel good and you can be happier. And then he is definitely more attentive at school. School has reported that he is better able to pay attention. He's better able to be included and involved in things that are happening. And I credit this with the changes that we've made to his diet. So I suggest that you take these things that we've talked about today and add them into your own child's diet and see if you can see a difference for your child.
So Eliza's story, very similar to Ben's story as well. And I think it does have to do with the fiber and exactly what Chardell said. I mean, just think of you on your worst day when you feel bloated or you feel that you didn't eat right and your stomach's off, and how moody and angry you are. And then you take this, to a child who can't communicate properly. And I think it's a lot of the reason why Eliza, had very irritable times, and that it was a real challenge to her. And, similar things. I mean, I think for the constipation, having a regular diet and making sure that she does have fiber and fruits and vegetables at every single meal. And again, the prune juice has been tremendous for her. And I give that to her every single day in the morning, the same amount. And I think that has, that is mixed with water. So that kind of the combination of that for her, not for everyone, but for her has really worked. And then, there's been a lot of less reflux and flare-ups. And I think a lot of the reflux and a lot of our children do experience this. And we didn't touch on this a lot. However, I do believe GI-wise, that constipation, just anatomically, if you are constipated and everything is kind of pooling in your colon and in your stomach and you're not digesting, it only makes sense that it causes this reflux and this push up of this acid. So I believe that really reducing the constipation really also will reduce that acid reflux. And that has made a huge difference for her. And again, I mean, she has come a long way with sitting. I mean, I can't say she's sitting all the time when we're eating, but a tremendous change because she's able to sit down and feel good. And then when you don't have enough food moving through or you don't have enough water, you don't want to sit down. It's uncomfortable. So I feel like, the diet and the water and the food combinations have made a huge change for her and the improved awareness. I also have reports from school, and I just observe on my own how much more attentive she is, how much more comfortable and happy she is with, small changes in her diet. So the recipes. So we've talked a lot about Chardell's green shake. So we're going to save that for last, which I really highly recommend. I give that to Eliza. I've recommended that for so many clients. But here's a snack that I think is really fun in the spirit of Halloween, because it's October and it's cool and it's fun. I love this. And I tried to incorporate pretzels, which we talked about, for a crunchy snack. And also kind of the combination that we talked about, having the carbohydrates, the protein, and the fat. So this gives a good combination of that. I will caution that the pretzel I recommended, those small little pretzel twists, be careful. If your child does have choking issues, break it up in pieces. Even when you're melting the yogurt here, it's very mendable. So don't give them the whole pretzel, but depending upon your child, I like to break this up in half, and I sometimes even use like a little fork almost in the yogurt and kind of put it in the back where Eliza can chew a little bit better. So I would recommend that. But however, some kids may be able to crunch and eat these. So these are kind of fun. They're not loaded with sugar. I used coconut oil here, which is more in the, not as much high sugar, a little bit in the higher fat side. So this should also, the combination, kind of keep you satiated and your child, instead of just eating like a candy corn, which is just pure sugar. So enjoy, have fun. You can use gluten-free pretzels, regular pretzels, but it's definitely a fun little recipe. And this could definitely be done with your child or your other children or at school or something of that. So enjoy.
Yeah, if you want to take a quick screenshot, do it now before I advance. If you want to save this recipe, you can always watch the replay later too, but quick screenshot of that. And then we're going to move on to the smoothie. I am blushing over here. Everybody's raving over this. It's a really good smoothie.
It is.
And it's super easy to swallow if your child has trouble chewing like crunchy foods. This is a great way to get those healthy foods in, is this smoothie recipe. Now, we did have a PDF of this that went out ahead of time. So if you had a chance to already make it, I hope you liked it. If not, give it a try. It's really easy. It's got the banana, almond milk, apple, spinach. We talked about that before. Spinach is a great one to put in smoothies. It doesn't have a lot of flavor when you put it in a smoothie and mix it up. So it's great, but it gives this beautiful green color. The chia seeds, we've talked about this. If you're giving your child chia seeds, make sure that it's mixed in with something that has liquid, because they absorb liquid very quickly. So if you, like put chia seeds on top of something that wasn't liquidy and it put in your child's mouth, it can cause a choking hazard. So just make sure that it's mixed in with something liquidy when you do chia seeds. But it has avocado for those good fats, and then a good squish of honey just for fun. Ben likes to squish the honey jar when we do it. He's the squisher. So anyway, put those in a smoothie, put those in a blender and push the smoothie button. And it's a quick and easy smoothie that's very nutritious for your child. So super fun. Okay. Now we have been just completely honored and thrilled to be here with you today. And I hope that you found something that you can go in and start doing today to help your child to eat healthier, to feel better, to help with constipation, maybe help with some weight issues. If there's anything that you feel like we didn't address fully or that you have some questions on, you can always put them in the Q&A. We'll hang around and answer some of those. But if you'd like to contact us privately, here's our information. Again, you can take a screenshot of this or watch the replay later. I'm pretty active on Instagram. That's where I do spend a lot of time. So you can always send me a direct message there, but email, and that's my website as well. And then Kara's email's down there. Again, she has a lot of experience with constipation and helping with those GI issues. So she's a great resource. Again, we are thrilled that you asked us to be here today. It was our pleasure. And yeah, that's our presentation.
Thank you so much.
I want to thank you both. I have pages and pages of notes. And I just really can't thank you enough for these practical, like really achievable kind of changes we can make in our lives. I'll tell you, my first one is when Courtney's helping me in the kitchen, because there have been nights that I say, is it worth it to make dinner? Because I've got the legs going and she's like diving in. And so I'm going to do that tonight.
Okay,
A
good.
little spot where she can grab those things. She loves those little crunchies, the veggie sticks. So I
Yeah.
have those ready. So I think that's a great suggestion among, all the others. And I know for myself and probably everybody on the call that that good BM a day is just the goal. And
It
so
really is.
that would be something that I could hope for. So, but those are great that you were able to share your stories. We do have some questions, and I invite anyone who's on the call, if you have them, you can enter them as we're talking. One was just, for the recipe of the green smoothie. So we have that. It's on the app. You'll be able to see it in documents. And so if anyone doesn't have it, I did enjoy mine while I was watching, and it is delicious. And I actually feel like I treated myself today with that. I feel so it's yummy. So one question that we have is when you have a child with intellectual disabilities, are there recommendations that you can give to the therapy team to try to help them to understand or participate in some of the feeding therapies? Are there any tips and tricks that you worked with? I know you worked with your team.
Right.
Yeah. And so
Right.
it's hard for our kids to understand exactly what's expected of them. So don't
Oh,
know
yes.
if there's any techniques or suggestions that you have.
I think obviously you want to work with an OT or a PT that has some experience with a child like yours. So in my case, Benjamin is nonverbal. So it was very helpful for me to have somebody who had experience working with a child who was nonverbal before. So the question is more about how to help your child understand what's going on, or how to help the team understand what's going on.
It's both, but mostly, if I understand correctly, it's tips for therapies.
Okay.
Just say to therapists. So therapies or techniques to help your child.
So yeah, I would say if you're working with therapists, make sure that they understand what PMS is. It's so rare. Most people have never heard of it. And even if they think they have, they're usually wrong. So you're the expert on PMS. And if you feel like you need some help, reach out to somebody else who knows, reach out to another mom, reach out to us and get us involved, because it's important that they understand the motility issues that our kids have.
Yeah.
And the low muscle tone that our kids kind of deal with every single day. Even as old as Ben's 13, even now he has low muscle tone. This is not something that just goes away as they get older. They're going to continue to deal with this. So having somebody who understands what PMS is and the unique challenges that brings for your child is going to be very, very helpful. Now, I would say as far as your child, at least with Benjamin, it's the repetition. It's offering him a small thing that I know he will take. So when we're doing these kind of therapies, we used food that was highly preferred. And I didn't care about the nutritional content of the food. If you're doing therapy, we're looking for highly preferred, something that they are going to accept. That makes therapy go much easier. So if it's a cheese doodle, it's a cheese doodle. Okay. It's like, it's not that big of a deal because we're working on the skills and the abilities and not so much about increasing their diet for that time. Does that make sense? So during therapies, I kind of say, we're just working on getting the skills. But those would be my main tips.
Yeah,
And
I think that's great, is just put the nutrition aside and do the use the highly preferred, and then helping the team to understand PMS, or making sure you have a team. Can I ask that, when you said you assembled a team, was that in a clinical setting or was that in school?
that was actually at home. It was at
okay.
home. This was before Benjamin was in school. So we had an outpatient OT that we were seeing. And at that same office, we had an outpatient OT that we were seeing. And then we had a speech therapist that came to our house through early intervention. And now that speech therapist that came to our house was the one I said to her, look, he is still struggling with chewing and swallowing. And she recommended the feeding class that was taught by 2 other speech therapists. It was an outpatient kind of thing. So when we assembled the team together, this was the days before Zoom. Do you guys even remember those days? Crazy, but this was the days before Zoom. So when we assembled the team, I would usually meet with the OT at our house, and we would sit at the table with Benjamin in the house, and he would do his thing. And then the speech therapist, we went on site. So then I was kind of like the relay between them. So we didn't actually all 3 of us meet together, but you don't have to, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the days of Zoom, you could do a Zoom call and get everybody there all at once. That would be awesome. But what we did was I would work with the OT on from the plate to the mouth stuff. And then we would go to the feeding class and work on the chewing and swallowing stuff. And then I was the go-between. I was kind of the moderator, getting that all interconnected.
And probably a very
It's
integral
important,
part of
yeah.
helping them understand what he needed. Right?
Yeah.
I think it's important too. And I think, when you have a newly diagnosed child, or even a child that has all these issues, that you do a lot of research, and then there's many speech therapists, and there's many occupational therapists, and there's many nutritionists. And I think it's really about finding the right people. I think I went through many different speech therapists, many different occupational therapists, not because I didn't like them, but because I kept having to push and find the right mix of people. And I think what Chardell said is that a lot of the speech therapists or the OT therapists, even the most well-known and the most experienced, may not have experience with this kind of particular low tone and eating. So keep searching. And then I also think, like, if you can't find the right people, reach out to wherever you're located, big hospitals, and start calling different centers and asking for the recommendations there, and just keep being persistent and getting the right team. And now that we do have Zoom, we can all get together. There is no limit for travel or time, and we can really get together as a team and brainstorm and discuss things. And not everybody knows everything. So I think that's an important piece that I learned, that we still, even the best OT, PT, speech therapists did research and work together. And if you get the right people that are willing to learn, I think that they can really work well together, for sure.
Yeah. I think back in I've been at this for a while. Courtney's 32, and we didn't have a diagnosis when she was in school. And, often her IEP would say, Courtney will sit for longer periods of time and blah, 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 and what I know now, knowing about PMS, I believe she was very uncomfortable. Right. And so because of that, as you're mentioning, the low tone, and needed to sometimes stand up. So I have a question around, she still does it sometimes while she's eating, she stands up.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's part of discomfort. And I don't know if you have any.
I have a
so,
few.
yeah. I think
Yeah, and
definitely. You go,
We're so excited to answer you. We can hardly wait. No, I think it plays a huge role. And I will say, for Benjamin, we noticed that, you've probably noticed this with your own child, right? Their ability to hold a position is limited. Like standing in line is very difficult for him.
Yeah.
Right. Or sitting in one position he's always moving. And I think it goes back, this is speculation from Chardell here, because I don't know if this is actually a causative thing, but my speculation is that postural support is really important. And once our kids have that postural support, then they can focus on other things. So for Benjamin, we actually have an adaptive chair. that
Mhm.
we put him in at the dining table. It's an insert that goes over my dining room chair that gives Ben support both on the sides of his body and on his back and then under his feet. When he is in that chair, and you've probably seen pictures of it on my Instagram, so it's nothing like
Mhm.
mysterious, but that postural support makes a big difference for him being able to sit at a meal. So with Courtney, my assumption would be either, yes, she's uncomfortable and she needs to stand up, or her muscles have been fatigued from however she's sitting. And so she moves or stands up to kind of release that tension and reset. That's Benjamin does that
Mhm.
all the time. The
Mhm.
constant moving, because the muscles just don't have that stamina. They're very
Yeah.
strong. You all know your kids are strong, but the stamina
You
is
do.
not there,
You do.
right? So
Yeah.
I think that may help her if you had a chair that was supportive on the back and the sides.
Yeah, and that, because I can see where what you are telling us. We really have to think about all of these things, not just getting the food to the mouth and getting the right food to the mouth, but it's all of those supports that go around our children to help them to be successful.
Right.
Yeah. So we did ask for a picture of the chair. So I think people will be asking about that. I know that I will. I think it's interesting that it fits over the dining room. So
Yeah.
thinking about this whole idea of eating healthy food, but also providing all the supports that our kids need. Yeah.
Whoever asked that, after this, whenever we get off of here, on my Instagram stories just now, I'll do you a video. How about that? So you just go to my Instagram. It's chardellbuchanan.nutrition on Instagram. Hopefully you have that. And I'll do a video on my stories and show you his chair. We got it from a place in New York City is where we got it from, but they do adaptive. It's basically MDE, but they built it custom for Ben.
This is the adaptive chair that we have for Benjamin for eating at the table with us as a family. It's from Adaptive Design Association. It is made out of cardboard, but this one has lasted us for 2 years. The one prior to this one, we had it for 4 years before we needed a bigger size. So they're very durable. This right here is just an insert on the side so that as Benjamin grows, we can make it wider and give him more room. It does have back support, you can see that, and then support on both of the sides. This is a seat belt so we can buckle him in, make sure that he is nice and secure. And then the footrest down here has non-slip adhesive on there. His foot has kicked it, so we've had to trim it, but that is the non-slip adhesive. Now on the side here, you can see that the chair is strapped to my dining room chair with this strap that goes underneath. So it's very secure on the chair. It's not coming off. I'm pulling on it. It doesn't even wiggle. So it's very secure, fits right over our dining chair and gives Ben the support he needs to be able to eat and feed independently, work on that skill at least while we eat our meals as a family.
So if anybody is close to this area, I think they do have another office in the West. I believe it's in Denver, Adaptive Design. I was connected to them through the Seaver Center. That's where I got where the connection was made. They have been fantastic. I fully believe in them. And if you cannot pay, it's not a problem. So
there's another chair too for younger kids. I don't know, but it's called the trap chair. I had that chair for little kids. It's more of like a step up chair, and you can get different requirements to like different seats and stuff for little kids. So I had that for Eliza too. You can go in, it has steps, and you put your feet down and ground your feet. And I got that as well. And that also, I also got, you can also get that paid through, it's an expensive chair, but that was also paid through like PT services and stuff like that. That was really helpful for Eliza at a young age. So for anybody that has little kids.
So
sure.
Thank you both. We're at time now. I think we'll leave it here. And it's been, I knew Chardell because I've worked with her before, but just meeting Kara, we're getting hearts floating on the screen. Oh.
Thank you, everyone. Oh my goodness. It's so nice.
Yeah, really nice. And thumbs up. And so we're getting really very practical advice. And I just can't thank you enough. And it's been so great. Kara, nice working with you on this and meeting you, and Chardell, as always. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. We're recording this, so you're going to help not only the people who are on today, who are sending you lots of love, but for a long time forward. So
this was great collaborating with both of you.
I thank you.
And yes, if anybody, if you feel there's a need for us to do something more personal, I'm happy to do that with Chardell, share, experiences or recipes or something that maybe someone doesn't want to share on the webinar. Very happy to kind of be in the loop and work all together, because this is we all need to work together to help us all and we keep learning as well. So we're learning from all the questions that you provide to us as well. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yes, thank you. It was our pleasure.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you,
so
everyone.
wonderful.
Yeah, thanks
Thank you.
everyone for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day.